Hi everyone, I'm Andy, and this is the AI Breakdown. Welcome to your weekly news edition where I'll cover what happened in AI last week and why it matters. Right, let's talk about shopping, the AI kind. Google has launched something called the Universal Commerce Protocol, or UCP, and it's basically an attempt to make AI shopping agents work across loads of retailers without everyone building bespoke integrations. Google announced it on the 11th of January, and it's co-developed with some seriously big names like Shopify, Etsy, Wayfair, Target, and Walmart. Here's the promise. With UCP, an AI agent should be able to discover products, link your identity, handle checkout, and manage orders in a standardized way across different shops. UCP is designed to work with existing industry protocols, including Google's agent-to-agent protocol for agents collaborating, their Agent Payments Protocol introduced last year for authorizing payments, and the Model Context Protocol, originally developed by Anthropic for connecting tools. So AI agents now have the potential to autonomously discover products, fill carts, and complete purchases without human intervention, which is either exciting or mildly terrifying, depending on how often you impulse buy. What matters here is the strategy. Google is pushing open infrastructure, trying to become the rails for what people are calling agentic commerce. And it's a direct contrast with Amazon, which, according to reporting, has blocked third-party AI shopping agents to protect its own platform. Now, the reaction I've seen is cautiously optimistic. People like the idea of open standards, but there's a very fair skepticism too, and it's very early days. Clearly a protocol that nobody uses isn't too useful. And that's the crux. The partner logos look great, but the impact only arrives when retailers actually deploy it and transactions start flowing. That said, my personal view is this is the direction of travel, so if you're in commerce, payments, or anything adjacent, this is worth watching. Now, Shopify didn't exactly sit this week out either. They dropped their Winter 26 edition, and they've called it Renaissance with E&I capitalized, which is a cheesy pun. So committed, it deserves at least a polite nod. The big headline is Agentic Storefronts. Shopify is basically saying, if shoppers are going to live inside AI chats, then your products need to show up there too. So now, a customer can discover and buy a product inside something like a ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot conversation without visiting the merchant's website. The transaction completes in chat, and Shopify routes the attribution and order data back into the merchant's backend. They also upgraded Sidekick, Shopify's AI assistant, from a fairly standard helper into something more agent-like. It can execute complex admin tasks and even generate custom mini-apps and automate workflows from natural language. And then there are two very practical merchant tools. First up, SimGym, which uses AI shopper agents to simulate customer behavior for A/B style testing. And then there's Rollouts, which lets you do controlled experiments and phased releases. The reaction in the commerce community has been genuinely positive. People have called it a strong release, and the vibe is that Shopify is trying to remove execution risk for merchants while keeping them visible in an AI-first shopping world. As Shopify's Dean Evans said, AI is now essential to modern commerce, and it's hard to argue with that. And then we go back to Google taking those open protocols and pairing them with something very immediate, in-chat shopping in Gemini. This was announced at the National Retail Federation convention in New York. The idea is you ask Gemini something like, what gear do I need for a ski trip? And it shows items from participating retailers, Walmart, Shopify, Wayfair and others. Then you can add to cart and pay without leaving the chat. There's also account linking. Walmart customers, for example, can connect their account so Gemini can factor in past purchases and even merge chatbot orders with their existing Walmart cart. John Furner, Walmart's president and CEO of Walmart US and incoming president and CEO of Walmart Inc., framed it as the transition from traditional web or app search to agent-led commerce. So it's the next big evolution in retail. And PayPal's Mike Edmonds basically warned retailers not to sit on their hands. My take is the funnel is getting compressed in real time. Discovery, recommendation, and checkout collapse into one conversation. If you're a retailer, that's amazing for conversion and potentially terrifying for your web traffic. Google says it's launching in the US first, with international rollout in the coming months. So like I said, it's early days, but the direction is clear. Let's switch to OpenAI because they've finally done the thing everyone predicted, in direct contradiction to what they said in the past, ads in ChatGPT. OpenAI says it'll start testing advertisements for free tier users and Go tiers in the US in the coming weeks. The ads will show up at the bottom of an answer when the response is related to a sponsored product or service, and they'll be clearly labeled and separated from the main text. And the reassurance line is doing a lot of work here. Simo said that most importantly, ads will not influence the answers ChatGPT gives you. Well, that's the promise. Why does this matter? First, it turns the free version of ChatGPT into a marketing channel. If users are asking for recommendations, comparisons, and buying advice, brands are going to want to be there. Expect a mini gold rush of AI search engine optimization and marketing as people try to figure out how to show up in these conversations. Second, it's a reminder of the economics. ChatGPT reportedly has over 800 million users. And remember, most ChatGPT users, 90% plus, are on the free tier, so the audience is massive. OpenAI isn't profitable, far from it, and it has cloud and chip commitments north of $1 trillion over the coming years. So yes, monetization was inevitable. Whilst I do understand why some are a bit uneasy, as there's a big perceived difference between an ad next to your search results and an ad next to advice you might actually trust. But in my opinion, it's a small price to pay for free access to transformative tech like this. And yes, perhaps OpenAI should have introduced ads back in 2023 when their user base started exploding to set the standards early. But they didn't, so in the short term, they have a delicate balancing act to manage between accessibility and monetization. For me, this stigma will be short-lived, and in a couple of years it will be long forgotten about, where ads and AI tools like this will be commonplace and people's expectations will have moved on. On the data side of the AI economy, Wikipedia has decided it's done being everyone's unpaid training set. The Wikimedia Foundation has signed business agreements with major AI firms, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Perplexity, and France's Mistral AI, for paid access to Wikipedia's content. And this comes as Wikipedia hit its 25th anniversary, which feels oddly poetic. A key detail here is why they're doing it. Wikimedia has said human reader traffic has declined around 8% while bot scraping has surged. And whether you love or hate AI scraping, someone has to pay the server bills. Wikipedia's founder Jimmy Wales has been pretty clear-eyed. He's happy AI models train on Wikipedia because it's human curated. But he also said companies should probably chip in and pay their fair share, and that their donors aren't giving money to subsidize these huge AI companies. This is a big precedent. It signals a more mature relationship between content platforms and AI developers, not just blocking or suing, but negotiating. OpenAI also launched ChatGPT Translate, which is basically them productizing the thing that people commonly use ChatGPT for, and in direct competition with Google Translate. ChatGPT Translate is a dedicated web translator that supports over 50 languages. The interface looks familiar. 2 boxes, language drop-downs, but the differentiator is tone and style control. You can choose presets like making it more business formal or more academic. At launch, it supports text and voice input in mobile browsers, but not images or documents, which Google Translate does offer. So it's not a full replacement yet, but early feedback has been positive. People on forums have said the translations feel more natural and context-aware, especially with colloquialisms. For anyone running a global SaaS product, the style control is genuinely useful, and importantly, the quality of translations is high. And I can speak from experience. We've embedded OpenAI's API into our SaaS products here at Notify Technology to automatically localize our products, including complex dynamic content generated by our users, with great success. Back to Google for a moment, because Gemini also got a pretty bold upgrade with personal intelligence. It's a beta feature that lets Gemini integrate and reason across your personal data, including Gmail, Google Photos, search history, YouTube history if you opt in. By way of example, Josh Woodward, a VP on the Gemini app, described asking about replacing car tires. Gemini not only pulled tire specs from the web, but referenced family road trips found in photos, suggested all-weather tires, pulled the license plate number from a picture, and even identified the vehicle trim from a confirmation email in Gmail. That's powerful. It's an assistant where you don't have to remember where anything is, your AI can connect the dots. But it's also exactly the sort of feature that will live or die on quality and trust. Google says it's opt-in, you choose which apps to connect, and your personal data isn't used to train the global model, though interactions may be used in a limited way. It's currently limited to US users on paid Google AI Pro or Ultra plans, personal accounts only, and they say they'll expand to more countries and eventually the free tier. Anthropic, the company behind Claude, has launched a new productivity tool called Claude Cowork. Available only on Mac for now and currently in research preview, this experiment came to life on the back of an internal initiative to create a version of Claude Code, their agentic coding tool for non-developers. Anthropic said it noticed users repurposing Claude Code for everyday tasks far beyond programming, which was the catalyst for Cowork. And interestingly, a lot of Cowork was actually built agentically with Claude Code itself. The idea here is Cowork turns Claude into a desktop agent on your computer, and it can work with files in specific folders you grant access to read, create, edit, organize, even do things like batch convert images into a PDF or tidy up messy folders. And unlike a normal chat, Cowork operates with more autonomy where you assign it a task, and Claude plans and executes it step by step, keeping you informed as it progresses. Boris Cherny at Anthropic said they were exploring a form factor that makes sense for people who don't want to use a terminal like you do with Claude Code. At launch last week, it was initially available only to Claude's $100 a month Max subscribers, but is also now available to those on the $20 a month Pro subscription. Anthropic is very explicit about safety, saying the AI can delete files, so be careful, use backups, and don't point it at sensitive folders. Salesforce rolled out a major upgrade to Slackbot, now generally available, powered by Anthropic's Claude. It can summarize threads, retrieve info across Slack and connected apps like Google Drive, Box, and Salesforce CRM, and generate things like meeting notes or onboarding guides. Salesforce's own Andy White said they're seeing several hours per week saved per employee because people aren't hunting for information manually. If you're running a team in Slack all day, this is one of those features that could quietly change how work feels. Less scrolling, more answers. And one last story, because it's a reminder that AI adoption isn't just happening in tech companies. News Corp has signed a deal with Symbolic.ai to deploy AI tools inside Dow Jones newswires. Symbolic.ai is founded by ex-eBay CEO Devin Wenig and Ars Technica co-founder John Stokes, and the pitch is very practical to help journalists with newsletter drafting, transcription, fact-checking, headline optimization, and SEO guidance. Symbolic is claiming productivity gains of as much as 90% for complex research tasks. That's a big number, and I'll be honest, I'd like to see how that holds up in real newsroom life. But even if the true number is half that, it's still meaningful. The key detail is that, according to an internal memo, the AI assists with first drafts and research, but editors have the final say. That's the pattern I think makes sense. AI is the junior researcher, humans as the accountable decision makers. If you produce content, blogs, research, thought leadership, this is a signal that the content arms race is going to get faster. The winners won't be the ones who blindly automate everything. It'll be the ones who use AI to move quicker without trashing quality. That's all for this week's AI Roundup. If you found value in this breakdown, please leave a rating and hit subscribe. See you next week.